The Baltimore Ravens lost last night to the Detroit Lions 38-30. There was a questionable field goal. Did it go in? Did it not go in? The Ravens scored at the very end to make it a one-possession game. But here I am to talk about this Baltimore Ravens team, why they lost. Because for the first time in about a year, the Ravens lost a game where it wasn't, they just beat themselves, right? It was just ridiculous, silly mistakes at the end, right? Like the Buffalo Bills game where, yes, the Buffalo Bills played very well, but it individually, it was not the Buffalo Bills just dismantling the Baltimore Ravens. It was the Ravens kind of collapsing in on themselves. This was not that type of game. The Detroit Lions went out there and they beat us. So let's talk about how that happened, why it happened, and how things need to change. Because as it sits right now, this Baltimore Ravens team cannot win the Super Bowl, right? Now, whether you want to talk about that's because of coaching, because of players, I'm going to get into all of that. I'm also trying a new thing where while I'm recording, I'm also live on TikTok as well. So if you guys are interested in that, while I edit the video, I'll answer questions as well. So if you want to check that out, check out the TikTok as well. But this video will be posted on YouTube. Which YouTube now is a new feature. This is not just a ploy for you guys to do this to my videos, but if you have any other videos that you like, you can hype up the video if you want it to get pushed out. If you don't like the video, you don't have to hype up the video. So if you know, if you're watching a video and you really like stuff like that, then you can hype it up and push it out to more people, just like liking or commenting or sharing. But I just wanted to throw that out there for you guys that didn't know about it. But let's jump right into it. Let's talk about this Ravens team. And I'm going to start with the players first, then I will get into the coaching. On the player side, there are some players that are absolutely doing their job. I think Lamar Jackson is doing his job. He's doing a very good job, right? I think, the wide receivers, I think they're doing their job. They didn't have the best game against Detroit. I think that was more on the route running, not the route running, but more in terms of the play calling. Way too much down the field shots. Just not enough quick passing game. I felt like when they went to the quick passing game, it was open, right? We saw Rashad Bateman score a touchdown on it. We saw Zay Flowers on 3rd and short do it. Mark Andrews in this game actually played pretty well, but overall, Mark Andrews has not been playing very well. But I think the wide receivers, I think Lamar Jackson, they've been doing their job. As it sits right now, I know Derrick Henry statistically is looking pretty good, but he's fumbled. He's fumbling too often. He is not doing his job as it sits right now. If we have, I don't know what that is, but I appreciate it. But overall, if we have the Baltimore Ravens with a star running back like Derrick Henry and he's fumbling basically every game, that's not going to happen. So overall, you have to look at it from the perspective of a turnover battle. And if you're as good as you are, if you're turning the football over, that can't happen. And I know Derrick Henry knows that. I don't expect Derrick Henry to continue fumbling. This is not something that's ever been an issue for him in his entire career. So I'm not trying to blame Derrick Henry for the loss. Like I said, I think this was a complete beatdown by the Detroit Lions on the Baltimore Ravens. So when I'm looking at the offensive line, however, they're not doing their job. Lamar Jackson was sacked 7 times last night. It did not look good. Lamar Jackson was running for his life. Again, they're not being done any favors by the play calling, but in the run game, Derrick Henry's not getting any holes from that. Now, hopefully Patrick Ricard is going to be able to, mitigate some of those issues that we're seeing in kind of the power run game and the I-form sets and the pistol sets, because Patrick Ricard is terrific in those situations. But we got Derrick Henry. We should still be able to block for him without a fullback, right? We can't just have Patrick Ricard out there every time we're trying to run the football. So I feel like the offensive line is not doing their job for the Baltimore Ravens. Now on to the defensive side of the ball in terms of the players. The entire defensive line is not doing their job. Madubuike has 1 sack this year. Obviously, he missed the last game, but Madubuike has not looked very good. Fub Peebles looked pretty good through his first 2 games, was kind of a non-factor in this most recent game. He had 0 pressures, 0 hurries. I think he only had 12 pass rush snaps, but not something that we're looking for. Adafe, Kyle Van Noy, David Ojabo, Mike Green, all those players, they're not getting pressure. That is a player personnel issue. That is clear. That is a problem for this Ravens team. Next up, you go to the linebackers, and Roquan Smith had a magnificent game in week 2, but week 3, week 1, it was not good. He looked poor. He was abused in pass coverage, and he was a non-factor in the run game. And if you're looking at it from a Ravens fan, you're saying, well, you got to be able to do one. And Roquan Smith throughout his entire career has been a terrific run-stopping linebacker. He was not that in this game. It doesn't help that the defensive line wasn't getting any, real stops. They weren't closing any of the gaps, but Roquan wasn't even shooting the gaps. He was sitting, 6 yards in the back, waiting for the running back to hit the hole. And even when they did hit the hole, he was too slow getting there because Jahmyr Gibbs is too fast and he can't arm tackle David Montgomery. So it just was not working from Roquan Smith's perspective. The other linebacker, Teddy Buchanan, he's a rookie day 3 pick at linebacker. I don't have super high expectations for him, but we're also not utilizing the second linebacker position a ton. We're using a lot more nickel, a lot more dime spots. And I saw Aiden send something. What's going on, Aiden? We're using so many more options at the linebacker position that we don't really necessarily know what the Ravens are doing because they run the same defense every time. They run nickel defense. So we barely have linebackers. It's basically Roquan and Teddy. Every once in a while, Trenton Simpson gets in as well, but neither of them are playing up to standard. In terms of the defensive backs, I think Kyle Hamilton has looked very good. I like what I've seen out of Malachi Starks. It's not their issue. What's going on, Aiden? How's it going? But it's not Malachi Starks. It's not Kyle Hamilton. They're doing a good job. Nate Wiggins has been phenomenal. I want to give shout outs to him. Marlon Humphrey has struggled. He has also played pretty well in some situations. So kind of up and down play from him. One of the biggest issues that I have seen is this secondary can't do anything when you get no pass rush. You're playing against Goff. You're playing against Flacco. You're playing against Josh Allen. And they're all able to just throw the ball out there because they're not getting pressured. And it's almost impossible to cover these guys for that long. We played against good wide receivers basically every single week, and we can't get pressure. And so that hurts the secondary. Now, Jair Alexander, we saw him in week 1. He was not good. He was a disappointment. But Chido Awuzie, I've really liked. I've loved Nate Wiggins this year. TJ Tampa actually looked kind of pretty solid, which I was really happy with. I'm a big TJ Tampa fan. So in terms of the player personnel, that's what I'm thinking. Also in the special teams game, Jordan Stouts actually looked pretty good. And then the kicker, Tyler Loop, has looked solid. Did he miss that kick? I kind of think he did actually, but you know what? We'll take the make over the poll because you can't review it. So we'll see. But Tyler Loop hasn't been a terrible kicker by any means when you see all the other kickers throughout the NFL last week. Tyler Loop looked pretty solid. Rasheen Ali, someone just mentioned that. Rasheen Ali has looked good on special teams as well, returning kicks, and LeJontay Wester in terms of returning punts. So those are my thoughts on the players. Now let's talk about the coaching, because that's where a lot of my issues are, both from offensive coordinator Todd Monken, defensive coordinator Zachary Orr, and then obviously John Harbaugh as the head coach. Let's talk about the offense. Todd Monken first. Todd Monken is an upgrade from Greg Roman. We've seen that from the jump. The passing game has absolutely gotten better. However, there are a lot of situations where it feels like the Ravens haven't improved. One of those situations is goal line short yardage situations, which is funny because Todd Monken has something that Greg Roman never had, and that's Derrick Henry. We should be much better in these short yardage situations. But when it comes to 2-point conversions, we never see Derrick Henry out there for 2-point conversions, which is hilarious because is there a better running back in the history of the NFL that can get you 2 yards better than Derrick Henry? I don't know. Like, he's in that conversation for maybe the best ever at doing it, right? He's up there with like Earl Campbell, Jerome Bettis, Marshawn Lynch. Funny enough, Marshawn Lynch also known for not getting the ball inside the 3-yard line. Shout out to the Seahawks for choking that one away. But that's like what it kind of reminds me of on these 2-point conversions. Like, why isn't he even in? But I looked up the statistics because I'm like, why do the Ravens suck so much on not special teams, 2-point conversions? They were 20% last year on 2-point conversion attempts. They tried it this game, and they call the same play every time, or almost every time. They call the Lamar Jackson rollout to the right, and it does not work. I don't know why they continue to run it. Greg Roman ran it. It didn't work with him. Todd Monken is running it. It's not working with him. It's shrinking the field. It's forcing Lamar Jackson to already be rolling to his right, which makes it more difficult for him to evade defenders. I'd rather just have Lamar Jackson, if you want to throw the ball, either play action or just have him sit in the pocket, and he can make that decision on himself, right? He can roll out to the right. He can roll out to the left. He can scramble up the middle, or he can just sit in the pocket and find someone open for a touchdown rather than forcing him into kind of rolling out. So I don't like that play call. The other thing is the play calling I meant the passing game. I don't know why Todd Monken, when he came into the Ravens like last year, the quick passing game was such an integral part of the team, whether it was the screen game or just finding Zay Flowers right away. That's just not happening this year. We're having Lamar Jackson sit in the pocket when we clearly have a bad offensive line, and it's just not working. Why do we not have any simple reach for Lamar Jackson? Part of the reason why Lamar Jackson has been so efficient this year is because Lamar Jackson, or in terms of efficient, in terms of yard per attempt and things like that, Lamar Jackson's finding people downfield. Lamar Jackson is very rarely taking checkdowns, very rarely taking screen passes, any sort of quick passing game. That is not sustainable. That is what's going to kill your drives, is because Lamar Jackson, it feels like every time a play is called for him to drop back to pass, is he's looking for a big play. Yes, I want Lamar Jackson to take more shots downfield, but you need to get the linebackers, the safeties to play a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage to keep the Ravens, in check, so that eventually, hey, maybe you can actually slip someone by the defense and get a big play that way. We are just not able to do that when we're just having Lamar Jackson sit in the pocket for 6 seconds every single time because no one's running any short routes. That's why Lamar Jackson took 7 sacks combined with the poor offensive line play. Now let's look at the defensive side of the ball. There's a lot of issues. A lot of people in the chat are talking about the clear need to blitz. And my problem with this is the Ravens, when they blitz, it's still not getting home. They blitzed, like, it felt like almost every third down, fourth down situation in the first couple of drives against the Lions, and none of them seemed to get home. They would do it in certain situations to try and disguise. They would also utilize like P droppers and things like that to have simulated pressures, right? So, 3 defensive linemen, then you send a corner, you send an extra linebacker. So it kind of looks like they're blitzing, but someone else is dropping off. The Ravens are doing that a lot, which isn't working. And it's just causing guys like David Ojabo, guys like Kaveh Noy, guys like Mike Green to drop into coverage at positions they're already not familiar with. And they're doing it where I saw Mike Green in a 3rd and 5 or a 3rd and 8 situation dropping into coverage on Sam Laporta. Really? Do we really think our rookie 2nd-round pick edge rusher is going to be covering one of the best pass coverage tight ends in the NFL? Absolutely not. That can't be the expectation. And I want to say it wasn't even a blitz. It was a simulated pressure, right? So like we sent like a corner blitz, or maybe it was Roquan up the middle. I'll have to rewatch that play again. But it was just like, okay, why? Like, why is that the play call? They decided to go with a cover 0 in a 4th down situation. I'm totally fine with that. I like being aggressive in 4th down, calling cover 0. The problem was we utilized Kyle Hamilton, and he's playing off coverage on Amon-Ra St. Brown when you're running a 0 blitz on 4th and 4. Amon-Ra is Jared Goff's go-to guy. He's going to try and hit him right away. And unfortunately, he went out there and didn't hit him right away. So, like, there's nothing you can do. Like, if you're Kyle Hamilton, he actually played it pretty well. He has no ability to break on the ball when he's starting 12 yards off ball, and they're throwing a quick out route to one of the best receivers in the NFL, in Amon-Ra St. Brown. So, like, the defense has to be cleaned up. They're not getting pressures. The simulated pressures aren't working. The blitzes, when they run blitzes, aren't getting home, and it's just not working out. And our secondary is the one that ends up looking poor, when in reality, the secondary is actually playing pretty well. Right? It doesn't feel like when they're playing these teams, oh, everyone's just wide open all the time. It's like, oh, Jared Goff or Josh Allen or Joe Flacco, they sat in the pocket forever, and then they finally found someone that was open. And even in those cases, like, they're still relatively covered. So like, I feel like the Ravens defense is not the secondary's problem. It's the front 7, and the play calling isn't helping them in any way. But now let's talk about the head coach. The man behind it all, Mr. Jonathan, brother of Jim Harbaugh, as I call him, brother of Jim Harbaugh. The chaos, the lack of formality, the lack of continuity in this defense and this offense is clear. This Ravens team does not have an identity, whether on offense or defense, and they haven't for years. They are a team that is supposed to be built on. They draft to be built on the trenches, physicality, and yet the offensive line gets bullied, the defensive line gets bullied, the linebackers get bullied, and they don't cause any sort of turnovers. That is why they lose in these big games, is they're unable to get turnovers. The other thing is, it feels like they don't have an understanding of their strengths, right? Now, to go over the math on why teams go for 2 when they're down 14 and they score a touchdown, I understand the math. I understand the logic. However, you also have to recognize the Ravens math, because in general, the reason that the teams go for two, right? It's because they're down 14. In the NFL, traditionally, it's about a 50% chance that you get a 2-point conversion. And so they say if you get that on the first try, you kick that extra point on the second try, you win the game. And if you don't get it, right, statistically speaking, probability speaking, you'll get one out of the two. So if it's the second one, that's fine. You tie the game. Now, obviously, it doesn't mean if you miss the first one, you automatically get the second one. That's not how probability works. But overall, in general, that's how the logic works. But we have to remember what I said earlier. The Ravens are a 20% success rate when they are going for 2-point conversions. That's based on last year's numbers, not this year. They're 0% this year. So if you're a 20% team, why are you going for it? Right? Like, you do not have a very high percentage chance of getting it on that try or even the second try, even if you do go for it. So I don't like that. This game, in terms of the clock management, I felt like the timeout was a poor call because they needed to maintain those 3 timeouts. I would have liked to just see Lamar run back, spike the ball. But I think they were just kind of unprepared for that situation. Lamar Jackson made a mistake running out of bounds there because he ran out of bounds and he didn't have forward momentum. I think he should have just thrown the ball away, lived to fight another down. But you know what? Like that's a mistake on the field. That's something that I will say like Lamar Jackson shouldn't have done. But the Ravens did not help that mistake. They compounded it by using a timeout and making it where they had to get an onside kick if they were going to come back into the game. So that was kind of unfortunate in that sense, but it wasn't like egregious. I understand the methodology because if the Ravens hadn't scored on that very next play to Mark Andrews, they wouldn't have had necessarily a lot of times. Like I understand that. I difference of opinion there. But week 1, they make the tackle at like the 8-yard line on Keon Coleman, and it's like, dude, why are we not going out there and telling them like, hey, if they get by you, let them score. Instead, they allow them to run the clock out. So it's just like things like that, the time management from the defense, from the offense, from the players, it feels like it lacks consistency. The players lack preparation. Kyle Hamilton threw the lateral back into the end zone. Like that's a mental error. That's a mental mistake. But these are the technical things, the technical aspects of football that the Ravens need to know. Their players need to know this. Their coaches need to instill in them like just the rules of football. You can get a safety on a 2-point conversion attempt. It's worth 1 point. Basic rule of football. You need to know that in that situation. And John Harbaugh then after the game, like tries to just insults Kyle Hamilton after the fact. He should have known that. I'm wearing the Kyle Hamilton jersey. John Harbaugh, you should have helped them learn that. This Ravens team is poorly managed, but also the players aren't playing well. That's why, as it stands right now, they can't win the Super Bowl. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe for more Daily Ravens content. Let me know your thoughts. If you like the video, hype it up. Like it, comment your thoughts, and I'll see all of you again tomorrow.